नमस्कार दोस्तों 25 December 2024 we are going to discuss editorials from The Hindu. You are all welcome to Namo Academy of Excellence and I am extending heartfelt wishes related to Christmas to all of you. On this occasion we need to learn, we need to grow and we shall grow with peace and prosperity. With this, without further delay, we'll go into article discussion. First article here, it talks about India and China. What kind of relation we need to re-establish and what kind of thinking we need to do in order to re-establish our relations. This article has been written in detail. We will discuss it. The hallmark of mature leader basically is about to resolve the disputes peacefully, not to let them escalate into any kind of conflicts. Even when historically inherited dispute, they trigger kind of a conflict, they even make every effort to ensure that these kind of conflicts they will be diffused through dialogue and does not become bigger issue and become bigger conflict. On this test of maturity, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, China's President Xi Jinping, they have fared very good manner. There was a military standoff between two countries. Basically, it was triggered by violent confrontation in the Galwan Valley in June 2020. It was ended because political authority that led to disengagement agreement, even that reached after the patient talks happened between military and diplomatic teams of the both India and China. In order to reduce hostility or in order to completely avoid hostility, what kind of cooperation we need to pursue? Now, the two leaders are called upon to show the same kind of wisdom and responsibility to address the bigger challenge. What is that? Will they make a strategic determination to move India-China relations uninterruptedly in the direction of comprehensive, mutually beneficial cooperation? Or will they allow accumulated deposit of mutual distrust that will drag the ties in opposite direction and it will further reduce cooperation and it will increase the rivalry? See, in order to pursue the second option, surely we has danger of sparking future military clashes. Basically, there is an inherited boundary dispute that is not yet settled. Any new kind of clash, whether it is small or big, this will wreak peace and tranquility along the line of actual control, which is the precondition for bilateral cooperation that has to begin and flourish. At a time when the world has entered into era of growing geopolitical turbulence and uncertainty, India-China hostility, this will add to the load of global problems. On the other hand, cooperation, this will not only bring immense mutual gains, it will also make world better and safe place. This is the strategic choice Mr. Narendra Modi and Xi Jinping they have to make. Making the right choice, this requires bold thinking in New Delhi and Beijing. But this is not possible unless both of them make honest effort to remove mutual apprehensions that one is against the another, keeping core interest intact. Specifically, if you see, China must do three things. One, it must demonstrably convince India it poses no threat to national security now or in the near future. Basically on its own or alliance with all-weather friend. Who is all-weather friend of China? Pakistan basically. China ऐसा बोलता है हमारा दोस्ती हिमालय जैसे ऊंची है, समुंदर जैसे गहराई है. That means our friendship with Pakistan is like as tall as Himalayas and as depth as ocean. So this Beijing's equivocation to condemn Pakistan-sponsored terrorism in Kashmir and elsewhere in India, this has made common Indians to view China as unfriendly nation. Second thing, China must not act in any manner that makes India suspect that it seeks to contain India's rise in Asia and on the global scene. It has happened several times. So suppose say on the United Nations, every time China vetoes. Why? Because they are supporting Pakistan. They have several interest in Pakistan. They are developing CPEC, China Pakistan economic corridor. They are developing even port near Chabahar in Pakistan, that is called Gwadar port. So all these equations basically China needs to avoid them. In order to give full evidence, India is world's most populous nation and permanent member of and contender to permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. Third thing, China must respect India as an equal pole in the multipolar Asia and multipolar world. And China should know about India that India will never accept subordinate position in comparison to any country in the world, including China also. On its part, China also do three things. India also must do three things. First thing, India must not be guided by misleading notion of power asymmetry between two countries. Because India joined United States in order to strengthen and increase its strength through confrontational initiatives are there, such as Quad. What is Quad? It is an association formed between four countries in order to contain China, basically India, Japan, Australia and United States of America. So this kind of Quad grouping made China to think that Delhi has joined USA to contain China strategy. Second thing, India must not deviate from its one China policy by supporting Taiwan's independence or play Tibet card. Tibet, every time they want independence, even Taiwan also was facing a lot of issues. So India must not play all these cards. Third thing, it does not behave a great and independent nation such as India to allow West's anti-China narrative to shape India's medias and academia. Basically, thinking about its neighbor. Basically, India shouldn't come in the threat of West and then it should condemn China. These things shouldn't happen. So this is because Indian TV channel and newspapers, they indulge in constant anti-China propaganda. India's constant anti-China propaganda, even government do nothing to stop this. The Chinese media, even though it is controlled by Communist Party, they do kind of rarely all these things. That's what authors says. There is nothing in the millennia-old history of the two civilizations that predestines India and China to become adversaries and rivals, less like enemies. But profound wisdom of their civilization requires world's most populous nations of the world. They have to serve the humanity, human values. What are all those? Peace, inclusive global development. They basically prioritize eradication of poverty everywhere. We need to focus on democratic global governance, saving planet from climate crisis, cultural, spiritual rejuvenation. Basically, that kind of takes entire human race. We should not allow cynical practitioners of real politics on both sides. Basically, those who argue liberalism, this has no place in conduct of diplomacy in order to hijack India-China discourse. What kind of trust building ideas can we follow? Now it is the time for world's second largest, soon to be third largest economies to become partners in the domestic development. With United States under Trump 2.0, they are threatening to hike tariffs on Chinese imports. India's large and fast expanding market, this offers growth opportunity to China's slowing economy. Similarly, if you see China with its great strength in infrastructure and modernization, green energy, electric vehicles, even several other breakthrough technologies, they provide greater opportunities than any other country for the realization of India's aspiration to become Viksit Bharat. So India and China, they are global south countries. As such, their cooperation can greatly help other developing countries, especially underdeveloped countries in Asia, Africa, Latin America also. If India and China, they enhance convergence in their foreign policy, they can bring greater stability, predictability, fairness in global governance. This is what becoming increasingly ineffectual. For example, if you see Both countries should work together to end Russia-Ukraine war and to bring peace in West Asia. Why not? There are close to us, close to China, close to India. Lot of issues are happening in Myanmar. Why can't we end? Even Manipur also there are problem. So these issues we can bring it down. See, basically we can establish mobility corridor through Bangladesh, China, India, Myanmar, BCIM corridor. This can be put lot of things, and it can give strength to India's activist policy also. What is more immediate problem? All these trust building ideas, they are what can be called high hanging fruits. Lot of time, hard work and careful nurturing, this is what needed before they can be harvested. So there are 5 low hanging fruits, they are ready for picking. First thing, direct flights. Those flights that are suspended after outbreak of COVID-19, they must be restarted. Second thing, Indian government should begin issuing visas to Chinese business people, engineers, technicians, also even scholars and tourists, those who are eager to visit India. Last year, China issued visas to over 2 lakh Indians. In comparison, India issued only 10,000 visas to Chinese nationals. Third thing, Delhi and Beijing, they should reverse their decision that led to exit of Chinese journalists from India and Indian journalists from China. Fourth thing, Indian government had banned dozens of Chinese apps including WeChat because there was an issue in the Galwan Valley clash. So this kind of ban should be lifted. Fifth thing, 2 countries must quickly make big moves in trade and investment. China can easily reduce huge deficit in the bilateral trade by importing more from India. As it was rightly suggested by India's Chief Economic Advisor V. Ananta Nageshwaran, another way to manage this trade imbalance is by China. Today, almost every big Indian business house is hungry for joint venture, technology tie-ups, even third country export collaborations with Chinese companies. Let this 2025 be breakthrough year for India-China cooperation. A telling demonstration of this could be official visit of Mr. Xi Jinping to India or Narendra Modi's visit to China early next year. So this is the article about. This article is written by Sudhir Kulkarni. He was served as close aide to late Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee in the Prime Minister office in the period 1998 to 2004. So we will discuss next article about meritocracy, caste-based disparities in IT sector. We will discuss this article in detail, why meritocracy need to be promoted, why there is a caste-based disparity in the information technology sector. Indian IT sector is this is one of the fastest growing industries in the country. This contributes almost 7% of the India's GDP. This is even so much so that sub-Saharan African countries, they look to follow its lesson to replicate India's success in the software exports. The performance-driven, even high-paying nature jobs in IT sector, they make it preferred career destination for millions of Indian youth. Job market in this industry, this is always like huge example of skill-based meritocracy, inclusivity with social backgrounds of candidate playing no role in their hiring. If you see National Sample Survey Organization data, if you see the empirical test of the inclusivity promoting image of the informational technology sector, this shows kind of different reality. If you see, analyze the writers of this article based on household surveys by this National Sample Survey, this gives there is a huge difference in the caste-based disparities in employment probabilities in wage earning in the IT industry. This indicates there are huge social inequalities in the job market. Basically, this NSSO survey, this utilized 2 studies. Basically, NSS 78th survey in 2020-21 and NSS 68th round 2011 and 12. They are representative at national levels. Study samples basically comprise of 30,000 people around and 20,000 people from 78th and 68th round from India. So the variation in the selected sample size from 2 periods is because of variation in the overall sample covered under those surveys. The employment probabilities were estimated after controlling observable factors Those factors could influence outcome variable. Industry that are dominated by public sector, they were used as a benchmark probability for estimation. Now study comes, like what are the findings of the study? So study found that probability of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes to be engaged in IT sector is only 10% in comparison to upper castes. That is almost 27%. Even finding remains robust even after accounting difference in the educational attainment, other individual characteristics such as gender and regional background. Surprisingly, if you see this disparity in employment probabilities, this increased over time from 2011-12 to 2020-21. Though both groups were at relatively disadvantaged position in first time period than the later period. In 2011-12, if you see lower caste groups, they faced only 6% probability of being engaged in IT sector compared to 17% for upper castes. But if you see later, lower castes it has gone to 11%, upper caste it has gone to 17%. This shows IT sector grows, but it fails to acknowledge the social barriers that exclude marginalized groups. Even the study reveals that lower caste groups manage to enter IT job market. They face labor segmentation because caste-based disparities in wage earnings. SC and other backward classes workers in the IT sector face negative wage differentials of almost 25% and 22.25% when compared to upper caste workers, even after accounting difference in educational attainment and type of employment also. These findings they align with labor market segmentation theory. Basically, what is this labor market segmentation theory? This predicts division of labor market into dualistic segment, lower and upper labor segment. Basically, workers in lower segment they face kind of structural barriers while moving the ladder. These findings indicate that lower castes they are relegated to lower segment of the job market. They are facing limited returns to private investment in education and skills. Even more than caste inequalities, there is gender inequality also. Labor market disparity in informational technology, this also affect vulnerable sections, especially women. Female workers in IT, they earn about 26.2 lower than males irrespective of their caste because their employment probability is closer to what men. Labor market segmentation, basically particularly high growth, high paying sector such as IT, this has far reaching socio-economic implications. By systematically excluding significant portion of the population, industry not only sacrifices economic efficiency but also neglects social justice. Diversity in the workplace is widely seen as important source of comparative advantage. According to a report by International Labour Organization in 2022, higher level of diversity at workplace they are associated with greater productivity and innovations. Even Network for Business Sustainability they reported, basically it is in Canada, 1% increase in racial diversity in upper and lower management. It is associated with yearly firm productivity gains between $729 to $1,590 per worker. Yet, these factors shows these things, but Indian IT sector reluctance to embrace true diversity, this risks stifling its potential sustainable growth. Further, it discourages marginalized sections from investing in skill development, tapping them in this vicious cycle of poverty. What kind of policy steps are needed? Several policy steps are needed in order to address these inequalities. First thing, all companies they should be required to publicly disclose their workforce diversity matrix. They should make it public on their website. These kind of transparency measures they can encourage accountability, motivate employers to prioritize diversity without even imposing specific quotas also. Second, lower caste entrepreneurs they should be provided with greater incentives and even training for entrepreneurship in high productivity sector in order to boost economic participation. Finally, reducing the skill gap among these marginalized sections, this can pave the way for more equitable and inclusive job market. All these things should be taken care and in order to avoid disparities in the IT sector and bring sector on the growth path. Next article we will discuss about quantum computing. This article is from technology point of view. What is quantum computing? What are all related to these things? We'll discuss this article in detail. See, quantum computers, they are basically talk of the computer town. They have several potential to solve complex problems much faster than classical computers, and it is very interesting to transform several industries also. Quantum computer is based on the principle of quantum mechanics. What is quantum mechanics? This is the area of physics that basically deals with smallest particles in the universe. In 1982, Richard Feynman, he proposed idea of developing computer that could simulate both quantum and classical physics. But researchers realized classical computers, basically classical computers are those computers of today. They would struggle with the complexity of quantum system. So idea of quantum computer was born like that. So what are the basics of quantum computing? If you see, classical computers works on the principle of classical physics. Their fundamental counting unit is basically bit. Each bit is unit between one piece of information. Basically, it changes values between 0 and 1, binary values we call. It is possible to represent all types of information as combination of zeros and ones using binary system. Quantum computers, basically they rely on quantum bits or qubits to perform kind of computations, classicals. Unlike those classical bits, quantum bits, they exist in states of 0, 1 or in the state of partly 0 or partly 1. Basically, what is the state? This state refers to all possible values of qubit that can have. Basically, say one qubit can have 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0 like that. So, the ability of these quantum qubits to be in two states is known as superposition. In one of two fundamental principles that animate quantum computers is basically superposition. Image spinning coin. What is image spinning coin? While it is spinning, it can both head or tail. It isn't until the coin basically collapses that you can see which is it is, whether it is a head or tail. Suppose you toss the coin, it goes into air and it ultimately falls on the ground, and you see if it falls on head, it is head, it falls on tail, it is tail. So before tossing the coin, you may not know the thing. But qubit is like it holds both the values. You cannot exactly say what is head, what is tail. So basically, when you are measuring qubit, it collapses one of the values on 0 or 1. This means kind of classical bit holds one unit of information. Qubit can hold 2 units. So because of this, quantum computers can perform multiple computations simultaneously with the measurement. This revealing one of the possible outcomes of the computations. Second fundamental principles upon which these quantum computers based on is called entanglement. What was first principle? Superposition. Second thing is entanglement. What is entanglement? This is the phenomenon. This allows qubits to be intrinsically linked to no matter how far apart these physically they are. So measuring state of one of the qubits will immediately yield information about the state of the other. So let us suppose you have 2 pair of gloves. Each glove is put in separate box and sent to different locations. And you don't know which box has which. Once a box is opened to reveal the left glove, you instantly know the other box has the right glove. Right? It's true. It's intuition. The instantaneous correlations between qubits, same happens in this principle of entanglement. So this correlation between qubits, this speed of computation that would take longer with classical computers. These two principles, superposition and entanglement, they are exclusive to quantum mechanics and they are central to and even potential to quantum computers to offer. Now with this principle, where the quantum computers are now presently, quantum computers, they are technologically superior, but it doesn't mean automatically they are better than classical computers at all tasks. Over the years, experts have developed specific tasks that prove quantum computers capable of greater feats. 1994, Bell Lab computer scientist Peter Shor, he created Shor algorithm, This algorithm could find factors of large numbers in movement rather than millions of years required by classical computers. This has major implications for data security also. Current methods to secure data, this involves, even it lacks data hiding capacity. Large number of factorization is one such problem. Classical computers require enormous amount of resources to solve such kind of things. But using Shor algorithm, quantum computers can quickly get the key and open the locks. State of quantum computing, this has come long way since then. In 2019, for example, IBM, they unveiled world first circuit based commercial quantum computer Q system. Circuit based design, they are believed to be one of the most versatile for general quantum computing applications. This Q system, they are the one uses circuits composed of quantum gates that can manipulate qubits. That is same as how classical computers use the logical gates, AND gate, OR gate kind of thing. Recently, in the same year, in 2019, Google also reported a paper in Nature. Their 53 qubit Sycamore processor, this has achieved quantum supremacy. When it can solve problem that would take classical computers basically unreasonable amount of time, this paper basically claimed Sycamore, that is designed by Google, this completed task in 200 seconds. That would have taken almost 10,000 years for supercomputers to solve. Earlier this month, even we recently discussed in article also, Google unveiled quantum chip called Willow. This is the world first quantum processor in which this error connected qubits can improve as they scale. These quantum states, they are easily prone to errors because of the interactions with environment. So quantum computers need error correction in order to hold information long enough to perform useful calculations with them. Willow, the Google that has developed, they told it can finish standard test in 5 minutes, whereas same calculation could have taken almost 10 trillion years in order to solve the supercomputers. So what are all the present limitations? You need to remember three things. IBM's circuit-based commercial quantum computer, Google developed Sycamore, and recently they developed quantum chip called Willow. What are all the present limitations on the quantum computing? There are advancements are flying thick and fast, but still many significant challenges in order to overcome the quantum computers to become commonplace. There is a chief concern is that building quantum computers remains expensive and complex. Keeping many qubits stable is also difficult because there are error rates and discoherence. The problem for which we really need quantum computers is because of they require millions of qubits. With all these things said, their potential to be useful is very clear. This is why our India also launched National Quantum Mission in 2023. Government almost set aside 6,000 crores for mission in order to spend over 8 years in order to develop the quantum computers. What is the first supercomputer in India? Param Shivaya. So these are all the few things about technology sector, quantum computing. So we discussed 3 articles today. India, China, what kind of bold decisions we need to make. Second thing, IT sector, in order to grow, we need to promote meritocracy. At the same time, we need to reduce disparity. We need to promote inclusivity and gender diversity. Third thing, we discussed about quantum computing. That's all for today. Thank you. Thank you very much for discussion.